Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mapping the Dance World. My guest today is an amazing dancer who started off dancing after watching Happy Feet. He originally started in Canberra, yet has taken his studies all the way to Germany. I love him, and I know you will. I'd like to introduce you to Rohan Hazelton. Hello, mate. How are you?
G'day there. Thanks for having me on.
Couldn't. When I started this, the first thought of mine was, got to talk to Rohan. So, Rohan, why don't you
Yeah.
introduce yourself to the people and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so obviously you know I'm Rowan. I've been dancing in Dresden, Germany for the past uh, 18 months or so, on and off, due to COVID, obviously. And yeah, it's about it. That's my life. Studying at Palooka, and yeah.
So, because the last time I saw you, geez, it would have been how many years ago? At least one and a bit or so.
Yeah, it would have been December 2019.
Because I was like, what originally drew you to that school? Like, what was the thing that kind of made you want to go there? Because we never really talked about it at the time.
Well, so I had very mixed feelings before I came here in December for my 2 week trial. And remember at the Brisbane Pre, Jason, the director, he was there and he gave like a talk about what his school is, like what they do. And I reckon that really drawed me to it because it was just such a good opportunity to when you're in Europe in the like dance industry, there's so many options and companies and stuff like that that you can go to. Whereas in Australia, it's a bit limited. So that would be like the first thing that would have drawn me to it. Um, and then just such great facilities, great dancers. Yeah, it's really good.
How different is dance in Europe? Like, is there a big change? Is it kind of treated differently? What is the difference between Australia and Europe?
I reckon the biggest thing would have to be just the reputation dance holds over here. Like in Australia, it's kind of it's almost like if you were to talk to someone and be like, oh yeah, I want to study dance full time, they kind of go, oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, sure, whatever. Over here, it's more accepted, really. Because arts is such a big part, especially in Germany. It's such a big part of their culture and stuff like that. It's more accepted, and the history they have with it. So over here, it's kind of like, oh, you want to be a dancer? Oh, that's amazing. They have so much support. Like even well, especially at my school, they have a lot of support from the government, whereas there's not really any school in Australia that is kind of supported by the government. I don't think,
No,
or
no.
really any company in that way. So yeah, I reckon that's a massive difference. Um, and yeah, I reckon the last difference would just have to be the opportunity, as I said before. There's just so much more opportunity over here for dancing, and especially what one like there's classical companies, there's modern contemporary companies, there's ballet companies, there's companies that do it all. So yeah, it's definitely different, that's for sure.
Because that was something I was going to ask you about was the opportunities and if they're like if the benefit of going overseas is the increased opportunities. So working off that, have you had like many like opportunities? Obviously, COVID allowing to, what kind of opportunities have you been given by going overseas? COVID willing, COVID willing. I'm
Well,
aware.
it's honestly none because of COVID. When I first got over here, we had a plan to go to like a city to do like a little performance and to watch ballet. And then uh, for my course I'm doing like a 3 year bachelor course, so because of that we're we have to do like a internship at a company for 2 weeks, or it can be two companies, 1 week here, 1 week there. But because of COVID, obviously, and it's Europe, so it's quite bad. Um, we weren't able to do anything. You know, I've been here for 18 months, and I've just been in Dresden the whole time. So with COVID, there's really been no opportunity outside of my school and my city for me to do anything or see anything or try out anything. And it's the same with like the graduating year. Uh, they really struggled like trying to get jobs and stuff like that at the moment, just because it's so hard. You know, you have to send an audition video, and it's really hard to look at someone on a video and be like, oh, they really gonna suit my company, my choreography, because it's all good to watch a video, but it's how many times have they taken to record that video? Whereas if
Yeah.
you're in the studio with them, you get a real good idea real quick about how they dance, how they operate.
So, in moving overseas, have you like what has been some like the challenges you've really faced? Because I always thought the language barrier would be a really big one. I thought like a cultural shift. How has that all been?
Well, I have to say, moving across the world, it's been amazing just, just to get a different culture, because the only places I've ever been to were English speaking countries. I've been to Australia, America, and then, Fiji. And obviously you go to a resort there, so you don't actually get the real culture. But over here, yeah, it's very, very different. The language barrier is a real tough one, especially when I first got here. I've started to get a bit of a grasp on it. I can understand a little bit, but at the same time, sometimes someone will be speaking to me and it just goes, "Hmm." So that's definitely a very hard one, especially with such a complex language as German.
So you're just sitting there like,
Um,
I like your words, Magic Man. I like your words. Yeah.
yeah, but even the culture is so different here. The easiest example I could give you is, when in the morning, right, you walk past people, you smile and say good morning, and they'll look at you as if you've just spat in their face. Like they just go, what? You actually acknowledged my existence? How dare you? Um, there's been a couple times where, I'll be getting on a tram. There's an old lady and she's trying to get her thing up on that she uses to walk. I'll go to help her and she like shoos me away. She's like, I don't want your help. It's very no one goes to help her. It's the same with if someone's just trying to like step up onto the tram or the train or whatever, you give them like an assist, and majority of the time, especially with like the older generation, they don't really want it. It's the same with if you try to make an effort to speak German somewhere, genuinely they'll be more friendly to you rather than if you just like ask them, oh, sorry, do you speak English? Because
Yeah.
and it's fair enough, like you go to their home country, right? You should try to speak their native language. It's but
So
you know
for a young kind of student, because I'm about to move overseas and quite a few young dancers look at it, what would you say is kind of the big, like, if you had to say like the top three biggest things, what would you tell them that they had to do or consider or just plan ahead for?
Well, one thing I'm just going to say right now that you could never plan for is a pandemic dropping, like right in the middle of it. Like that,
Yeah.
just, that's just me. But nah, in all seriousness, just research your country you're going to. Like, I know that sounds a bit weird. I didn't do it, and Loki, I kind of paid for it. But say if you're going to France, like research, where you're going, and if you know anyone that's been there or just been to France in general, just be like, okay, so how are they over there? Like, I know that I didn't really know anyone that went to Germany before I came here. And I was kind of like, oh, I'll just go there. It'll be fine. Uh, every country, even like Australia and America, they're very different. Like they're very similar, but they're very different at the same time. Then you have like two countries that don't really speak the same language. That means they're going to be very different. And if you research where you're going, you're going to know a bit more about it. You're going to know that, okay, I'm going to Dresden, which was like part of Eastern Germany well, it is in Eastern Germany. So they're they're not going to speak much English here. So maybe try learn the language before you get over here.
Let it be known
But
that Rowan
yeah,
did try, just not very well.
I gave it like 10% effort. I want to say I learned how to say Guten Tag, Danke, and then
Yeah.
yeah, that's about it.
Was it for you? Has the shift been big in the dancing in itself? Like, is it a really different? Because when you were in Australia, you were studying RAD. Like, you were doing that really kind of set
Yeah.
vocabulary. And if I understand you're doing Vaganova now, how's that kind of shift been? Has it been like crazy,
So
or have you just
I'm
been like,
doing everything now. I'm doing Giacchetti, Vaganova. There are teachers here that did study RAD, but they prefer like there's at Palooka. There's not a set syllabus that we do because there's teachers who learned Vaganova, teachers who learned Giacchetti, teachers who didn't learn either. So there's multiple teachers that have like a more Cuban method, a more French method, a Russian method, a English method. So over here, you just kind of like, depending on what teacher you have, you take in their knowledge. And then you'll get a different teacher, and then you'll take in their knowledge. And the biggest thing they have said to us is just, as a professional dancer, you have your own dance style, like you'll prefer to do something this way rather than that way. You'll prefer to do it that way rather than this way. And it all depends on your choreographer as well, or your director. Maybe they want you to do it like the Russians or the French, or but it's definitely very different in regards to RED, because there's probably only one teacher here that studied RAD for a little bit, but she doesn't use it. And I remember someone telling me before I left that, yeah, RAD isn't very big over in Europe. Uh, a lot of directors and schools don't really like RAD because everything's so set and so, you know, just different to what they've been doing for a while.
hmm. And I guess
And the way that like the exams go, I think would be the biggest thing. Because over here we have assessments, obviously, but
hold
there's
on, let me stop you there for a second
there's
before we get too far. This is real well. Because I was going to ask you, because what are you studying? What are you actually getting? You're getting a bachelorette? Or what degree are
yeah,
you
I'm
getting?
getting a bachelor degree of dance.
And
Yes.
so, what does that entail? Because I've been doing like a Cert 4, which is nowhere near the same. So, what kind of work does the bachelor entail, and what does that mean in the grand scheme of like universities and other options?
Well, basically, um, either way, that like if you're auditioning for a company, if they see you can dance, you have like a good stage presence, stuff like that. If they look at you and they want you, it doesn't matter. Well, to me, to my knowledge anyway, it might be different. But if they see you and see someone else, and they prefer you more, I don't think they're really gonna go, oh, here's a bachelor of dance. oh, he only has a Cert 4, Oh,
Hmm.
okay, well, you know, so in that aspect of it, I don't think there's much difference between it. The I don't even know because I'm not really sure what a Cert 4 in dance is. All that I know is that for the bachelor degree, we have to do 3 years of study, but we also have to do like a bit of theory work. It's nothing like school. Like it's nothing like year 11 and 12 school. You have to get your ATAR, blah blah blah. Like the
Yeah.
courses are very very different. You do dance history, dance theory, just for when you do become a professional dancer and someone walks in, okay, I want the female Gaudet from this person, or I want the La Sylphide from Taglioni, or this person, or I want to do the Vaganova or the Mariinsky Theatre Don Quixote. Like
Hmm.
it's just kind of to give you more knowledge of where dance started, who's been doing it, and
So,
just a rough education of it.
so would you say that it's less about like when you're in high school doing research, just research? It's more about like this is research for knowledge you will need, or knowledge that's
Yeah,
almost like I would say like practical knowledge. It actually has an application
yeah,
in
yeah.
the what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because like we also do anatomy here. We do anatomy for 1 year, and that's literally just to learn what your body does, what your body needs, what like if you do this step, what muscle you're going to use. If you do this step, what muscle you're going to use. When you injure yourself, what's the smartest thing to do depending on your injury. But yeah, for the dance theory and dance history part of it, it's yeah, just practical knowledge. Even when someone's choreographing, like even if it's not a ballet, they'll say like, yeah, I want to do this like very Forsyth or whatever, very
Hmm.
like a certain technique or something like that, just to help you identify which style is which and what ballet is which, what you need to use as a professional dancer.
So coming a little bit around in a way, what would you say is like your typical week? Because it sounds like it's pretty jam packed. It sounds like you do a lot. So could you kind of give me a vague idea? Obviously, I assume it kind of changes depending on the week, but could you kind of give me like a rough outline of a typical week? What kind of classes you do?
So I've never really experienced a normal week here because of COVID, and there's been so many restrictions on our school. So obviously, we've been into 2 lockdowns. So when I first got over here, I had a rough idea of what an actual week was, but even then, it wasn't what I would be doing now if COVID didn't exist. Because when I first got over here, I was just a guest student for 6 months. I hadn't started my bachelor course yet. But so through COVID, for a while, we did one class, like 1 hour class of ballet every day. And just because that's all we were allowed to do. And, we have a full school of students. Each year has around, 16 to 20 students. And there's around 8 studios or so you can use. And yeah, especially with like the younger like school students, that they have more people in there. So they'll be doing class, then they'll have to do dance, and you're trying to do dance as well. So it was just 1 hour for a little bit of just ballet. Then a bit later on, we started to do like modern and contemporary. But even with that, for a while, we weren't even allowed to like do any floor work due to COVID because if you're rolling all over the floor and stuff like that, and that's the easiest way
You're
to
basically just
contract it.
like
Another
slowly
thing was,
basting yourself in germs, aren't you, if you do that? Just slowly cooking yourself in.
yeah, yeah, and especially like there was obviously only limited numbers you could have in a studio. So we divided into like 3 or 4 groups. So there'd be boys group A and B and girls group A and B. So then I'd have 3 people, like there'll be 3 people, including me in my class. we'd do ballet, and then we'd go to modern, and then it was just very okay, So for a point, we weren't really. I don't want to say we weren't dancing, but obviously we just came out of a like 8-week lockdown. So we were doing online classes in that period. But if you're in like a 16 square meter apartment, there's not a lot you can do,
No, it's somewhat
especially
restricted.
if you have a bed here, a desk here, a closet here. So you're kind of like just trying to do bar in your little apartment, and then you'll be doing Grand Batman. You kick your table, and you kick the heater, and you're just like, oh, how am I supposed to do this? So for a period, you just do bar for like 8 weeks, and then you get back to school, and then you're like, oh my God, I can't turn, I can't do this, or what's going on? Like I could do this since I was like 15 or so.
So
What's the go?
it's almost like you're saying here, like the COVID has had a really massive impact upon your study overseas, and it's like
Yeah,
it's just completely. Has it almost changed how you view your dance now? Because I found for me, it
it
changed how I
definitely
viewed it.
has. Yeah. Oh, it definitely had. Because when we did the first lockdown last year, I was going to class, but I wasn't like using everything I could. I wouldn't push myself to the maximum. So we did the first lockdown, and which made me so hungry for like dance because we couldn't do it for a while. And then we got out of lockdown and we could do one class, and we had to wear masks. And the first mistake I made with that was not having mints in my bag after I had lunch. There's nothing more horrific than trying to do Grand Allegro with the worst breath in the world and a mask. Like, there's
Oh,
nothing worse.
oh, that'd be worse because you keep breathing
Yeah,
in
so
and breathing it out, just like a cycle.
yeah, yeah. So it was definitely just like the biggest thing to get used to was dancing in a mask because you'd breathe in and go to your face, and so you couldn't get enough air in. So it got to a point where we'd be doing Grom Batmon at bar, and we'd all be out of breath because there just wasn't any oxygen. So we had to go stand over to the window, take our mask off, get some fresh air, put it back on, and go back.
Just like a little
So
pit stop.
after a while, you just got used to it. Now, like I'll be wearing my mask in a supermarket or something, and I almost forget it's there. Like it doesn't faze me whatsoever. Whereas before, when we first started to have to wear masks, I was like, "Oh, this is horrible. I hate this. I can't breathe." Blah 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 blah. And now I look at it and I'm like, "Oh, that's light work."
So
I could wear a mask to do anything.
when you got over there, I do remember this because this is one of the tantalizing facts I learnt. You had a pretty significant injury, if I remember correctly. Like, because you ended. What did you do?
Yeah. So, like I'm gonna say 5 weeks after the first lockdown, I dislocated my knee and ruptured a ligament in my knee and tore part of my meniscus. So
Damn.
it wasn't.
At least you did it well. You didn't
It
half
wasn't.
commit to that. You went all out. You
No,
went the full
I
Monty.
sent it fully. Like it wasn't holding back whatsoever. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly.
How'd you do it?
Yeah. So, it was like right at the end of class, right? It was like a Thursday or something. So our legs were dead. And we had just been doing like a bunch of Allegro for the first time. And I was just so excited. I was like, yes, I'm finally jumping again. This is what I wanted. Anyway, so right at the end of class, we had an exercise. And after class, I wanted to try it and practice it again. And what it was like a double tour. And then when you land, jump straight into another double tour. And so when I did that, I did the first one, and then I came down for the second one, and I was a bit funny. Then when I landed the second one, I landed, my body kept turning, my knee didn't, and my right knee pushed in opposite direction. And so it just Went out. Yeah, worst 20 minutes of my life because
Oh,
obviously we had to wait for the ambulance to get there. And so I was just kind of lying down in the studio with one knee bent, my kneecap sticking out to the side. And, everyone, like two people almost threw up because there's nothing worse than seeing something out of place in real life. Like you'll see like a dislocated shoulder or something in a movie and you go,
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah. John
then I
Wick.
was there in that moment. My teacher was like holding my leg so I didn't straighten it because that was the only thing I wanted to do was straighten it so it would just fall back into place. But because of the way I dislocated it, um, the ambulance, the paramedics basically said, if you were to put it back in by yourself, there's a very high chance you could just tear all the nerves in there and just, it could be really bad for you. So anyway, they get there 20 minutes later. I was squeezing my hands so hard, like above my head like this, that they were just tingling. They were completely white. Anyway, so they get there and then they take a look at the situation and they both went, oh, this is oh, okay, let's get started. So anyway, they got me all drugged up on ketamine, so I wouldn't feel anything, obviously, and they put it back in, and then I don't think I've ever felt more relieved in my life when my leg just went down and I just couldn't feel anything, and I was like, oh, isn't this great? So anyway, went
So,
to the hospital, sat there for 5 hours, and yeah.
but what I was also really interested by was you had your recovery program and the recovery support you got was, as far as I gather, pretty impressive. Can you kind of like
It
give a
was
detail of that?
amazing.
Because like that's a pretty good example of
So,
how dance is supported. So I'd like to hear about that.
well, so we'll just start off with healthcare over here is absolutely insane. Like I'm 90% certain that Germany is the best in the world when it comes to healthcare. So that was beautiful. But just the doctors over here. I went to four different doctors and surgeons about my knee because obviously I found out that I ruptured it and it was torn and stuff like that. And when I dislocated it, a part of my patella like snapped off and there was just a shard floating around somewhere. So three of them said surgery, but they all said different surgeries. And so I was like, oh God. Two told me that I'd have to do surgery and then I wouldn't be able to get like past 80% mobility when I stretch my leg. The third one said I'd be able to, but I might not be able to dance. And the fourth doctor said, you don't need surgery. We'll see how it heals. Because I went to him 2 weeks later than the others because my physio here, he was a dancer, so he knew what it was. He knew, okay, let's see how it heals in 2 weeks. Then we'll go to another doctor and ask their opinion anyway. So really strangely, when I went to see the doctor 2 weeks later, he did like an MRI and a scan on it. And he was a bit confused, he was like, oh, what's going on? And so they were talking in German. And another thing, all through this, all the doctors spoke German and I didn't understand a single thing. So they'd be talking to me, right? And they'd be saying stuff. And I'd be like, okay, what's she saying? What? And then there's that just to start off with. And then he was confused because the ligament that I tore had already started to heal itself. Like it already start to repair, which was a bit strange because it ruptured, like it went. So to hear that the other three said, yep, you definitely need surgery, and this guy goes, oh, it looks like it's starting to repair itself, which was strange to him because usually, obviously, that doesn't happen anyway. And then he was like, okay, I want you to stand on it and tell me if it hurts. And, I stand up, put all my weight on it, or well, 50% of my weight on it. And I was like, no, it doesn't hurt at all. I can stand on it. Okay. And he's like, oh, okay. We'll put all your weight on it and we'll see how it goes. And put all my weight on it. And he was like, oh, it doesn't hurt. And I was like, no, it's all good. So then he was like, yep, you have the green light to start rehab. So started rehab, which was extremely intense because my leg was so swollen and just it was like a basketball. I for the first 2.5 weeks or so, I could barely bend my knee like past there. It just didn't want to move. So I was with my physio, and he was just, okay, we're going to start just by doing plies, and I'd hold two poles next to me and just do plies in parallel for like an hour or so, and then just practice walking and then doing that,
So
which was
how
definitely really hard.
so how long did the whole recovery kind of process take? And what was the kind of support you did get?
The support I got was amazing. Because at that point when I hurt myself, I wasn't like an official student here. I hadn't passed my entry exam. So at that point, I was like, oh, well, crap, I need to go home now. They're not going to let a cripple in. Anyway, so I had a talk to the director, and he was like, oh, we're very sorry that this happened. You'll do rehab with us if you would like, because it's very hard to go home right now. And we'll take care of you, and we will do your rehab into your first year bachelor. And I was like, what do you mean into my first year? I haven't even passed the thing. And he was like, oh, we were going to take you. You just had to do the official thing, but because I was injured, I was like, oh yeah, let's go. So I found out that I got into the bachelor. So that was like the first green light of the whole trip. Anyway, so then I did rehab for, I want to say I did rehab for 2 months. And then from there, I started to do bar when we started again in September. And I did bar for 3 weeks or so. And then I slowly moved into the center. And, I do a bit of center work, just tendus, glisse, and that's it for a couple of weeks. Then I did pirouettes, which was a bit scary because, we do, double attitude and stuff like that. And I was doing it on my right leg. And so that was the first step of like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get better. And then I want to say around in September, not September, December, was the first time I started to do Allegro again, which was, when I say Allegro, I just did sautés. That's all I did. Then obviously we were about to go into lockdown, and I went to the physio and I was like, so what do you think? Am I good to do all of class now? Like, am I good to do Grand Allegro? And he was like, okay, well, let's see. So I did like a little intense rehab session with him. And I was just basically doing like 1.5 tours, like to face the other side and like hold, other side, hold, other side, hold, others. Did that 10 or 15 times. And then he was like, okay, so when you're in class tomorrow, when you get up to double tours, just go to the side, do a single, do a single, do a single, 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 single. Anyway, so then the week after that, I finally got like the green light to try a double. And this was like a week before we went into lockdown again. And so I did it. And I think it's the slowest double tour I've ever done in my life.
You're like, prepare.
It went in
Jump.
slow mo. I was turning and I was just thinking, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And so I did it, and then I was kind of like looked down at my knee. It was all intact, and I was like,
Nothing was on the wrong side. That's a pretty good
"Oh,
start, isn't it? Nothing's in
nothing
the
was on
wrong
the wrong
place.
side. Nothing was." Yeah, it was definitely a moment where I finally went, okay, I've done the rehab. I've worked on the muscles that were lacking, because like the biggest thing was and Mr. Schilling would always say this to me, Rowan, your knees need to be over your toes.
Yeah.
You need to do it, and it'd be in my head, and I would think that I'm doing it, but I'm not doing it. I didn't know the muscles I had to activate to do it. That's the biggest thing. Um, if a teacher, like for the biggest advice I can give, if a teacher's giving you a correction and they're giving it to you multiple times and they're saying, your knees need to be over your toes or something like this, or you need more stability, the best thing I can, just really in that point in time, like if you have a mirror, just face sideways to the mirror and do a couple sotes and look at what your body's doing, because there's such a difference between knowing what your body's doing and feeling than like, oh, I think I know what my body's doing, and then actually seeing your body and your knees going all funny and it's all going all loosey goosey on you.
Yeah.
It's definitely very different.
So, if a dancer is looking to go overseas, is it something you would say you have to do, you would recommend? Like, do you see what you're doing now as what will start your career in a way? Or do you think you can do it while staying in Australia?
It all depends on what you want. If your sole goal in life is to be, the soloist or principal of the Australian Ballet School, Australian Ballet, what am I talking about? Then if that's the case, the best place for you is Australia, because that's where you're going to be in that environment looked at the most. But if your goal is to get out of Australia and get into Europe and join a company and, start a career over there, the easiest way, not the easiest way, the most convenient way would be to study over here first, because then you already have your foot in the door.
Yeah.
You already
Building that
start to make a
network.
few connections.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
they're
start
building
to,
that.
it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah, building that network of people. So when you walk into the audition, they're like, I remember Rowan. He came to X
Yeah,
workshop. He did X class. Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
And on
So
that topic,
if that's the case, then sorry, you
on
go.
that topic, what's next for the big man? What's the plan going ahead?
I honestly have no idea. I just finished my first year, so I still have two more left. And as I said earlier, like we have to do like a 2-week internship. So I'm starting to email companies and ask them, hi, my name's Rohan. I dance at Palooka University. I was just wondering if I could come for a week and just do a couple open classes and see how you operate. I'm required to do this from my school, blah 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 blah. And yeah, we'll just see, because at the moment it's a bit harder to get a job because there's so many restrictions in different companies. So they might see you on a video and go, oh, that I like that kid. Let's get him to like come for a week, whatever. But then your country won't allow you to go into that country and come back. So you have to say no to them. Or they just don't even give you an offer because they're like, oh, okay, so he's in Germany right now. Well, I know that my country isn't going to let him in because Germany's COVID cases are horrible, or my COVID cases are horrible, or
So
Europe's just horrible.
you're just going to
Which,
play it off by ear for the
yeah,
next couple of years and see what happens.
definitely play it off by ear because it's not like I'm auditioning for any companies yet. I'm definitely going to finish the 2 years I have left here, get all the knowledge I can, and then just audition and try find a job.
Well, we'll definitely.
That's the plan.
Well, I'll definitely have you on again, and we'll have to have a bit of a catch up.
Yeah,
See what things change. All right, you've been absolutely
yeah,
amazing,
definitely.
Ron. Thank you all for listening, and
Thank you for having me.
like, comment, and subscribe. Is that what you're supposed to say? I'm new to this whole thing, ain't I?
Subscribe. That's it.
Do you want to do it?
Give it a thumbs
Go on.
up.
Go on, Ron.
Smash that thumbs up button.
Let's see if Ron can nail the ending. Go on.
Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, comment your favorite emoji, and yeah, just have a good one. Peace in the Middle East. Ciao, ciao.
He killed it. All right. Thank you all.